And action. Right. Fellow Oregonians, our state stands at a terrible crossroads. State spending has grown 15 to 20% every cycle for too long. Our overburdened taxpayers are suffering from the current economic downturn. The professional politicians either want to raise their taxes to protect their runaway spending, or they want to borrow money to protect their runaway spending. But who will protect the taxpayer? I'm here today to say that I will. In the budget that I'm releasing today, you will find, agency by agency, department by department, more bold thinking, more innovation, and more accountability than you have ever seen before in state government. Let me give you some examples. Within natural resources, we have the Department of Energy, which spends some $142 million a year on loans to businesses. These loans are supposed to be self-supporting. I say if they really are, then let them be self-supporting in the private sector. The state should not be a bank. My budget wipes this program out. Total savings in natural resources exceed $700 million. Here's another example. Today, the Department of Transportation spends $1.8 billion and hasn't managed to build a new road in 10 years. It is overstaffed with twice as many planners and engineers as it needs. My plan cuts the headcount of redundant staff, redirects the money into laying new roads, and encourages both private road construction and dynamic congestion pricing. Today, the Oregon Department of Transportation has as its stated goal increasing congestion. You heard me right. ODOT says that cars are too cheap and too convenient, and they have been trying to get people out of their cars and into buses and trains. They want your driving experience to be so miserable that you're willing to give up driving. And if you're still driving today, it's because they haven't made you miserable enough yet. In my administration, ODOT will have a new purpose: to reduce congestion, to reduce traffic backups, to lay new roads, and thus improve driving conditions. ODOT will build new lanes connecting I-5 to Washington State, and in Yamhill County will build the long-delayed Newburgh-Dundee bypass. The economic benefits of a sound transportation infrastructure are, of course, commonly known. By the end of my second term, we should have high-speed road access to every community on the coast and in eastern, central, and southern Oregon. Other reforms I propose will not have an immediate or obvious effect on the bottom line, but will still yield dividends to taxpayers. I will end the Enron-style dishonest accounting in the state budget. In its place, I will put honest, transparent reporting of the public accounts, presenting both an understandable cash flow statement and an understandable balance sheet for each department of the state government. I will alter the manner in which state departments and agencies are evaluated. In future, they will have to prove that their programs produce actual results that benefit taxpayers or face the loss of their funding. I will institute zero-based budgeting, where each department must justify every dollar it receives, rather than assuming they should get the same money they got last time plus 20%. I today offer real education reform. As I promised when I was nominated, I here propose to break the teachers' union monopoly on education. In its place, I will put accountability and local control. Each child will receive a $4,000 tuition scholarship for K through 12 schooling, redeemable at any accredited school in Oregon. Children with special needs will receive proportionally more. The entire state-level education bureaucracy will be scrapped. Some of you are aware of the Democratic Leadership Council's repeated calls for a return to local control for schools. I here answer that call. Higher education will be privatized. Each university and college will be sold for $1 to its administration and its teachers. Who will own them? They will get no more money from the state. Instead, each Oregon college student will receive a fully portable $25,000 scholarship to pay tuition at any accredited school in the country. Community college students will receive $2,500. What that means is the state will continue to spend the same money, but with greater transparency. I will fix the terribly broken public employee retirement system. That system, as you know, is between $8 and $12 billion underfunded, representing a debt of $4,000 for every Oregonian. And that debt is growing larger every day. I will fix PERS by ending it. We will cash it out, and employees will receive the system's current asset value, rolled over into a system of real 401k accounts. These accounts will be the private property of the workers, featuring a 5-year vesting period for employee matching funds and complete portability. These accounts will be beyond the reach of meddling politicians in Salem. Furthermore, I will force the government to make an honest accounting of the true cost of employee pensions, not the false accounts currently in vogue. I'm calling for an immediate end to the state lottery. If you were to graph the decline in math test scores for Oregon students and the increase in money taken in by the lottery, you would see a terrible correlation. I think it is wrong for the state to take advantage of its poorer and less educated members. I think it is wrong for the state to profit from ignorance. And I think it is wrong for the state to have an incentive, however indirect, for math skills to get any worse. Further, the lottery makes budgeting more difficult. It shelters legislators from accountability. I think every dime of state income should go to the general fund and should be spent from there by the legislature by roll call vote. Ending the lottery will help make the legislature more answerable to the voters for state spending. Similarly, I wish to free Oregon from as much federal control as possible by reducing our reliance on federal funding. Federal dollars come with a bewildering array of mandates, strings, reporting requirements, and red tape. At times, the cost of the red tape is greater than the dollar value received. Instead, I will press our delegation in the U.S. Congress to grant Oregon an exemption and a block grant representing all the money Oregonians send to the federal government, less an allowance for national defense and the like. The reforms I announced today are indeed bold and sweeping. Many of them will be controversial. However, I think every one of them is pointed in the right direction, toward lower taxes, toward greater accountability, toward greater efficiency, and toward empowering the people of our wonderful state. When I started on this path to the November election, I vowed to do my best to live up to the challenges of this race. I may be a minor party candidate, but I am a candidate, and I have tried and I will continue to try to live up to the duties and obligations of a candidate. Those include tackling the hard issues, offering leadership, and articulating a vision of a better future. I'm pleased that I've come this far by offering a detailed budget for the next biennium. But I'm surprised and disappointed to be the only candidate to do so. I call today on Kevin Mannix and Ted Kulingowski to at least match my efforts. Let them bring forth their budget ideas. Let them share their visions. To them I say, Kevin, where is your fiscally conservative budget? Ted, where is your education reform that returns control, that returns schools to local control? If all I succeed in doing today is getting the debate rolling, then that is a victory for me and for Oregon. End of prepared comments. Any questions from the reporters? Mr. White.
Do you have an estimate of what your budget would be, both general fund and all funds?
Yes, I do, and that should be in the press packet that was handed out. My general fund spending is about $1 billion less than this past biennium, significantly less than the estimates for 03-05. And my total spending, all funds, is $10 billion less. I know Steve Law has a question. He's just waiting, formulating it.
Well, some of the things you call for may not be legal and may be obviously dependent upon legislative approval.
Almost everything I'm suggesting is going to require legislation. Yeah. Absolutely right. All of it is, I believe, legal. Some of it will require a lot of work.
You think just scrapping PERS and estimating workers could be legal?
Actually, yes. It seems pretty clear if you look at the legislation establishing PERS. One of the clauses in there says that when PERS is ended, it must be cashed out, and it gives a formula for how the cash out happens. So clearly when it was created, it was contemplated as something that could indeed end. And since the Supreme Court of Oregon has made a point of saying you can't change it, obviously that's all that's left, is to end it. And if too many roadblocks come up for that, then I guess all that's left is to fire everybody. I'm quite serious. We could fire everyone and then offer them their jobs back under a new plan. But there's no way PERS can continue as it is. It's utterly untenable. Vern, you have another question, I can just tell.
Higher ed.
Higher education.
If everybody were a stakeholder, both administrators and present staff, wouldn't it be terribly difficult to fire anybody? Would it be somewhat like the old plywood co-ops? Everybody would have a stake and...
Well, it depends. If I'm a shareholder in a company and the company would do better off without me, they're clearly free to fire me. I don't think every hiring and firing decision goes through the board of directors. And my stake will continue to be a stake. So if the company does better after I leave, I still benefit directly because my stock gets worth more and I get bigger dividends, plus I get to go on to some other job where I'll probably do a better job.
Well, you don't envision that stake that the faculty member had would then pass to his successor?
I imagine that if we do a property rights approach, as I think we ought to, we would either expect those universities and colleges to give stock to their current employees, or ask them to buy in like a partnership, in which case when you leave you get cashed out. Other questions? I have stunned you with the boldness of my vision.
The allowance per student.
The allowance per student is almost exactly what we're paying today.
Exactly. Will there be some residence requirements stipulated?
There would probably have to be, I imagine, when we turn our educational system from being an absolute mess into a star performer that we're going to attract a lot of people into the state. Of course, that's the kind of problem you want to have. You know, is what do we do with our popularity and our brilliant education system as opposed to the problems we have today of how do we fix this horrible mess? How do we get kids out of the failing schools? So yeah, there are details to be worked out, absolutely, yes.
What are you basing your claim that math scores are going down? What is that?
That is one I pulled out of my ear, and I apologize for not documenting that one. I think that it is common sense that test scores are continuing to trend downward. The SAT a few years ago renormed itself in order to artificially boost scores because people keep doing worse and worse every year. I'd be happy to justify that one if you wanted me to. I feel like I'm on reasonably firm ground there. Sounds to me like we're near the end. I thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope you will vote for me for Governor of Oregon. Thank you.